Kansas City Chiefs are champions of Super Bowl 54.
These guys are hungry for more. They are eager to win another one. They're not satisfied with that one title. They want more. They want to build a dynasty here.
Throws it late for the end zone. Kelsey wide open. Touchdown! Now being hit and sacked. Frank Clark got it.
Every conversation since the parade has been run it back and do it again.
The Chiefs won their 6th game in a row last week with the victory in Tampa. And now finally back at Arrowhead, they'll look to make it 7 in a row on the national stage against the rival Broncos. We are 1 hour from kickoff. You've waited all week for this very moment. It's finally here. It is time for football in Chiefs Kingdom. Let's do this. My name is Matt McMullen, joined by Shawn Barber. And Shawn, we're in the home stretch now where you start checking off goals. And the first big goal could be tonight because the Chiefs, with the win tonight, will lock up a playoff spot.
Man, you talk about checking off the boxes, checking off goals. We break the season down into 4 quarters, and this is how we culminate the 3rd quarter. Started out 4-0, then went 3-1, and now on the brink of another 4-0 quarter. Let's complete the 3rd quarter and then start off that playoff run.
Now, the Chiefs have made the playoffs in 5 straight seasons and 6 of 7 seasons under head coach Andy Reid, so it's kind of becoming an expectation at this point to make the playoffs in Kansas City, which is a good thing because it's a sign of a successful organization, but at the same time, making the playoffs is hard, and it's something we should celebrate. So it could be a fun night here in Kansas City if the Chiefs can get this win and lock up this playoff spot and punch that postseason ticket. Now, if they do beat the Broncos tonight, that would be 11 straight victories over these Broncos, won 10 straight coming into this one. This is one of the best rivalries in the NFL, and the Chiefs have really dominated this matchup over the last 5 years or so.
Yeah, they dominated, but you look at the last 3 victories, and it's all been blowouts. So when we talk about the potential of a blowout here in Arrowhead Stadium, Denver Broncos come in with nothing much to play for, just trying to finish off the season strong, guys trying to keep their jobs over there. But what the Kansas City has to look for is just another, as we evolve the offense, the defense continuing to stack good show after good show, and a complete victory for the Chiefs. All 3 phases working together. We talk about trust, communication. Those are the things we want to see from our Kansas City Chiefs as they play here at home.
We'll talk all about it over the next half hour or so, getting you ready for kickoff. But Shawn, first, let's talk about the inactives for tonight's game. And for the Chiefs, it's a lot of good news. No big injury news for them at all. The only guy coming in that had a real injury designation of note here was Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He was sick with a stomach bug, but he's active here tonight, which is great news. He'll be in that backfield for the Chiefs. Also, it's worth mentioning this will be the 2nd straight week for Sammy Watkins out there. Came back last week against the Buccaneers. And he didn't have, 200 yards in the first quarter like Tyreek Hill did, but I think we saw how Sammy Watkins being out there really opens up this offense because guys like Tyreek had so much success, and a lot of that is due to Sammy Watkins being out there taking attention from other guys.
Definitely. We talk about safeties having their eyes on the prize. All safeties try to help out Tyreek Hill. They try to help toward his side. Whenever him and Kelsey on the same side, they feel they have to definitely remain in that deep presence, trying to get us to go away from our strong side. But whenever you can bring Sammy Watkins back into the flow, you can't put a 2nd or 3rd corner on Sammy Watkins. He can match up against the best of the best, and he comes to show out on primetime games. So look for a big game by Sammy Watkins tonight.
Love a side of that. We saw that impact really on the final play of the Buccaneers game as well, when the Chiefs needed that big 3rd down, and Tyreek Hill caught the pass on 3rd down to seal that win. And we talked to him after the game, and he's like, I got all the glory for catching that ball, but Sammy is the one that made that play work, because if it wasn't for Sammy, I'd have more attention on me, and who knows what happens on that play. So love having Sammy Watkins back out there. Love that prediction, too, on your part. Let's see what he can do tonight against these Denver Broncos. Now, looking at the Broncos, they had 3 big questionable names coming in. Jerry Jeudy, first-round wide receiver with an ankle. Malik Reed with a shin. He's probably their best pass rusher, not named Bradley Chubb. 25 pressures, 6 sacks since week 4 for him. He's been great. And also Phillip Lindsay, averaging 5 yards a carry this season at running back. All those guys are active, but you still wonder when they miss time in practice this week, you wonder how effective they'll be tonight.
Well, all those guys, they had like a balancing act, because you have Lindsay and you have Gordon. You got Reed and you got Chubb, and then you got Jeudy and Hamlin. So all those guys got a little ebb and flow that they bring to the offense when you talk about the Denver Broncos. And I know from an offensive standpoint, Drew Lock really likes to have all the weapons available when you're talking about a shootout against one Patrick Mahomes. Defensively, the bookends. You need Chubb, you need Malik Reed, you need both of them to be able to try to make Pat Mahomes feel a little bit uncomfortable in the pocket to try to get any pressure, any kind of penetration against our offensive line.
Yeah, Broncos have had a lot of injuries this season, getting somewhat healthy now toward the end of the year, but a lot of injuries for the Broncos this year. All right, so you'll see some warm-up shots out here at Arrowhead over the next half hour or so, and those live looks are brought to you by Orworo. Orworo is the official heated apparel partner of the Kansas City Chiefs. Heated vests, socks, gloves, they have it all. Check them out at orworoware.com. That's O-R-O-R-O wear.com. And when you're looking at those live looks, you also see a lot of creative custom cleats on our guys here tonight. And that's part of a really cool initiative across the NFL called My Cause, My Cleats. More than 1,000 players across the NFL are participating in this this weekend. It's cool, Sean. What it basically is if you have a cause, a charity, something you're really passionate about, you can use this game tonight and show what you're passionate about on your cleats. So check out the Chiefs website. See all the cool cleats the Chiefs are sporting here this evening. It really is a cool initiative and an awesome cause. So check those out on the Chiefs website. All right, Sean, so let's talk a bit about the month of November for the Chiefs, because it was an awesome one, a month to remember for particularly this offense. I'll start with Patrick Mahomes. He throws for 1,598 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He averages 399 yards per game. That was the highest average per game average for any player in a single month in NFL history. All the guy does is set records, and he set another one in November for that. Now, the guys he was throwing to, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Kelce goes off for 34 catches, 477 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's knocking on the door of a 5th straight 1,000-yard season here today. Then Tyreek Hill, and what can you say about this guy? 37 catches, 582 yards, and 8 touchdowns in a single month. That would be a pretty good season for most wide receivers. He did that all in 1 month, so incredible stuff from Tyreek Hill. This team is really just heating up offensively at the perfect time.
Yeah, we talk about being able to witness greatness as it's happening. It takes me back to watching LeBron James in some of his premier seasons when he was early on with the Cleveland Cavs, and he was just dominating the opponents. He was doing whatever he wanted to. That's the kind of atmosphere Pat Mahomes has made here in Kansas City. We know he is the MVP. We know he's the best of the best. At his position, is probably the number 1 guy in the league in totality. But what he does is elevates everybody game around him. And so now you can see what is the true ceiling, what is the true potential for not only Tyreek Hill, not only Travis Kelce, but all of our receivers, all of our running backs. And that kind of feeling, it takes the best to bring out the best of their opponents and of your own teammates.
Well, and the guys are climbing up the leaderboard here now, too. Just looking at the NFL leaderboard coming into this weekend, Patrick Mahomes led the NFL in passing yards. Then Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce ranked 2nd and 3rd, respectively, in receiving yards this season. If it wasn't for DK Metcalf to be number 1 and number 2, I'm hoping they could finish the year number 1 and number 2. That would be something. But you just don't too often see 2 guys on the same team having so much success, so much volume of numbers in the same season.
Yeah, and you talk about, historically, You've heard of receivers. You've heard of offenses that can really focus on the receiver position and get a pair of receivers 1,000 yards. But to be able to dictate to a defense that you can not only affect them during the middle of the field, attack them in their heart, but also on the edge, deep, short, and have a running game to accomplish it, I think that's why we're saying this offense is one for the ages. Because the answer is to stop them. Every time you have a defense you think is going to cause us to have problems, we evolve, we adapt, we adjust. We make whatever needed changes is to keep it going. First down, soon to be a touchdown. And that's the mentality you've seen Pat Mahomes have every time he hits the field. It's a scoring mentality. We're not thinking about anything in the past. It's all about thinking forward.
Now we've seen that scoring mentality from Tyreek Hill specifically, and I want to talk about him in particular here because, what a game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last week. He goes off for over 200 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns in the first 15 minutes. It was absolutely phenomenal. And Sean, what's really impressed me about Tyreek this year is his consistency, and particularly his consistency scoring. So he scored in 10 of 11 games this year. He's one of only 7 guys since 2000, the turn of the millennium, to score in 10 of his team's first 11 games. And what's exciting about Tyreek tonight is, for whatever reason, he's already really good. But in prime time, he takes his play to a whole new level. So 22 career games for him, 18 touchdowns in those games. The guy loves playing under the lights.
Yeah, he said it. He probably heard it from Deion Sanders many times. Big-time players make big-time plays in big-time games. And Tyreek Hill is a big-time player. He's a guy that started out as a slash return running back, and he's evolved into one of the best, if not the best, receivers in the league. He's not only a deep threat. He doesn't only have top-end speed. He has acceleration. He runs precise breaks, and he has amazing catch radius and athleticism. The run after catch is something that I think catches most defensive backs off guard, because once the ball's in his hand, he's running like a return man, and you need help. When he said He made the call for help to come over the top last week in Tampa Bay. There's going to be a call made tonight from the defensive back that needs help on Tyreek Hill's side.
Well, he has had a lot of success against these Broncos in his career. No player has more touchdowns against the Denver Broncos since 2016 than Tyreek Hill. He has 8 touchdowns in that span, also averaging 34 yards per touchdown on those scores, so a lot of big plays. But now for big plays to develop, you need time. And one thing this Denver defense is pretty good at is their pass rush. Guys like Malik Reed, Bradley Chubb, really good pass rush all season long. And for more on this pass rush, I caught up with James Palmer of NFL Network earlier this week. Now by James Palmer of NFL Network. And James, I want to ask you about this Broncos pass rush. It's been a real bright spot on this team this season. They ranked 7th in the NFL in sacks this year with 31. Then also the 3rd highest hurry rate of any team in the NFL. So they're really pressuring the opposing quarterback. What do you make of this Broncos pass rush this season?
Well, some of these sacks are coming from coverage, and we will give the secondary a little bit of credit there. And I know you and I have talked in the past about how they have been able to mix things up against some younger quarterbacks, and that has made guys hold on to the football a little bit. But that does give the credit to this defensive line. They are relentless. They give a lot of effort. There's a lot of names in there that if everybody's at home going down their sheet going, I don't know who that is. Well, it's because they've had so many injuries, but it is a credit to Bill Kohler, their defensive line coach, and to Vic Fangio, who's obviously their head coach and a brilliant defensive mind in his own right, to keep having new faces come in, be resilient, be relentless, and continue to get after the quarterback. Malik Reed on one side, one of the brightest spots when I talk to people for this entire defense and for this entire team, really, for that matter, the way he has stepped in place of Von Miller. And then Bradley Chubb is the other concern, obviously, on the other side, equally as dominant against the run as he is against the pass. But the other aspect that Patrick Mahomes and this offensive line need to be aware of is, Matt, when they put their hands up. And this defensive line is great at batting the football down at the line of scrimmage. I know offensive linemen will tell you, when you put your hands up, I want to drill you in the chest. And it's an open invitation. But at the same time, these guys have really been really good at it. Bill Kohler is one of the best in the league ever at teaching it. Worked with J.J. Watt early in his career about teaching him how to become so dominant with it. That's an aspect that Mahomes and company have to be ready for.
And you mentioned Bradley Chubb. He's the real star of this group. He's the engine that makes it all go. Tore his ACL last year and missed the final 12 games of the season. No Von Miller this season, but Chubb's really stepped up, had a really nice year with 44 pressures. What's impressed you about Chubb this year?
Well, I'll mention one thing off the field and one thing on the field. I'll start with off the field. And everybody I've talked to there's been essentially a changing in the guard in Denver, right? Most of those guys from that Super Bowl 50 team are gone. And Bradley Chubb, with the loss of Von Miller, from my understanding, has taken over that locker room on the defensive side of the ball. He's been a brilliant leader. It's something he's going to need to do throughout his career in Denver to be that guy, right? We're not pushing Von Miller out the door, but he has stepped up in his leadership of a defense. And the other aspect of it is, and I mentioned it earlier, just as dominant against the run as he is in the pass rush. When I talk to tackles around the league that have gone against him, they say his speed to power is just unbelievable. He's so much stronger than guys like Von Miller, but at the same time, he has a lot of athleticism. Early in the season, when you're trying to figure out that knee that you bend on is as strong as you want it to be and you want to build that confidence, that was hurting him a little bit in the year. But once he started getting it rolling, getting the confidence in the knee, his jab and his push and the way he can power you and bull rush you as well as beat you around the edge with speed and then break inside as well. He is a difficult guy to go against, and he's only getting better. I think he's not where we want him to be yet. I think a lot of people, and I wrote an article on NFL.com about him before last year started, that he was maybe one of those next giant pass rushers in the NFL. The injury slowed it down a little bit, but he's coming into his own and into that player that we all kind of assumed he would be. Every game that happens, I think he's getting better, and he's going to eventually be in that group right now.
All right, great stuff there from James Palmer. And Shawn, let's stick with this Denver defense for a bit, because this is a group that's probably a lot better than they get credit for.
Yeah.
And we saw back in Week 7 when the Chiefs beat the Broncos, they beat them by a lot, but turnovers were really the story of that game. The defense played well for the most part for Denver, including on third down. They hold the Chiefs to 0 of 8 on third down. Third down will certainly be an emphasis for the Chiefs here tonight offensively.
Yeah, and we talk about a defense that loves to try to pressure the quarterback, come after you, get off the field. They play a catch technique so they keep you going in front of them. They don't let you go over the top, make you snap the ball, because they want to just have your quarterback hold on to the ball a little bit longer than comfortable. They want to get home. They want to get that rush home. And with two guys like Chubb and like Malik Reed coming after you, I saw that Chubb had 50 quarterback pressures. that tops our guy. Our guy, Chris Jones, got 48, and I thought he was doing an amazing job this season. And then I started to get and crunch the numbers, and I realized, wait, our guy's up by 2 by their guy. So we talk about protecting the passer. At all costs, we got to keep Bradley Chubb and even Malik Reed. He had 2 sacks against us last time we played, and that led to that 0-8 third down efficiency. Our offense needs to do something to stay on the field, convert third downs, but first and second down, make sure that third down is manageable by having positive plays.
Now, speaking of defense, let's talk a bit about the Chiefs' defense, because we kind of saw them get back on track last week against Tampa Bay for the most part. Maybe some drives toward the end they'd like to have back, but overall, this group looked like the group we saw early in the season when they were one of the best defenses in football. And primarily we saw in the first half a lot of 3-and-outs by Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. Love seeing that. Then in the second half, 2 turnovers, 2 interceptions, one by Tyrann Mathieu, one by Bashad Breeland off Tom Brady. And takeaways have been the story of this defense this season. They have takeaways in 10 of 11 games this year and 4 against the Broncos back in Week 7. That was a huge reason why the Chiefs had so much success in that game. The Broncos also lead the NFL in turnovers this season, so takeaways could be a big part of whatever leads to a Chiefs victory hopefully here tonight.
Yeah, we talk about the time.
All right, we're back. Apologize for the technical difficulties there. It's live television. You never know what's going to happen, but thank you for sticking with us here. So, Shawn, I believe where we left off, we were talking about Drew Lock a bit. So Drew Lock, like I was saying before, he's had an interesting season. At times he's been really good. At times he's struggled. What do you make of Drew Lock at his career at this point, and what's impressed you about him this season?
I think if you just grade his growth and development from an early part in his career, he can make all the throws. It's just when the pressure gets high and you put it on his shoulders to win the game, to make a game-winning drive, that's when defenses have been able to trick him to throwing into adverse situations. Throwing late picks, taking sacks, instead of throwing the ball away and surviving the down, trying to fit a window that's not really there. And that's what he has to learn. And Mahomes went through that same growing, that same bell curve. You're not going to be able to make every throw. A defense has a weakness. You either take that weakness or you have to create more time to make a play. He hasn't had the ability to extend plays, and he really doesn't have the playmakers around him able to just throw the ball up for 50-50. Defenses like ours have really taken up the opportunity to take advantage of those opportunities with turnovers.
Now, what he does have is two playmakers in the backfield that can make his life a lot easier. Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay, one of the best running back tandems in the NFL. And for more on these guys, I caught up with Lindsey Jones of The Athletic earlier this week.
Really kind of their most dynamic, kind of game-changing offensive player. And he plays with this just different level of intensity. He's like this mighty mouse where his legs never stop churning. He's a small guy. I mean, he's very much an undersized back, but he plays with a lot more power than you would expect by looking at him. He's really hard to tackle. He breaks a lot of tackles, and he's really been the guy that the Broncos have been able to rely on really for the last couple of seasons when they need a big third down, when they need a big conversion or some sort of offensive spark. Chances are it's been Phillip Lindsay that's been giving it to them.
He's averaging like 5 yards a carry this year. The one thing with him has been staying on the field. He's missed some games with injuries this season. Limited in practice this week, so we'll see what his status is on game day. But great player. We'll see how he factors into the game plan on Sunday. Now, the other part of that rushing attack is Melvin Gordon, of course, the free agent signee from the Chargers in the offseason, a big-name guy. How does he fit into this offense, and what's he do well offensively?
Yeah, I mean, I think they look at him as, just a very versatile all-around running back where he can be their kind of grinder. If they need to give him a lot of carries, they're going to give him a lot of first and second down type of carries. But and they do expect that he can, have those kind of big break, those big runs and stuff. The one thing about him is that he hasn't been that reliable. He has had some back-breaking mistakes, some fumbles. It just really things that they have been unable to overcome. I believe it was in the last Chiefs game where they tried to get cute and he had that pitch back to Drew Lock that just completely went awry and led right to a Chiefs touchdown, which are the type of mistakes that you can't make when you're playing the Chiefs. So, they spent a lot of money to get Melvin Gordon. They really like him. He's had a couple of big games, but ultimately when this Broncos running game is at its best, it's when Phillip Lindsay is the one who's getting the bulk of the carries.
Well, and he played pretty well in the Chiefs' first matchup with the Broncos back in Week 7. Broncos as a whole had 177 rushing yards in that game. Pretty solid performance for them. It didn't really matter because the Chiefs got off to a big lead. All right, great stuff there from Lindsey Jones. And I love how she ended that, Shawn, because it's so true because whenever a team comes and plays the Chiefs, they play a perfect ball game. We've seen it with Vegas when we played them in the desert with the Carolina Panthers. They execute their game plan to perfection. And still, the Chiefs find a way to win because we have the best player in football on our team. It's something that every single day I count myself fortunate that guy on our team.
You talk about X factor. You can list as many keys to victory as you want. These things have to happen for the Chiefs to win. These things have to happen for the Broncos to win. The Bronco can check all those boxes. If it's less than a 10-point score going into the last 4 minutes of the game and Patrick Mahomes in this offense has the ball, there is no lead that's not attainable. There's no way we can't come back. We showed that throughout the playoffs last year, throughout the Super Bowl, and that's against some of the best teams in the league as the season is closing. The mindset and mentality of one Patrick Mahomes is always on an elite level. He's always working out how to figure out the scenario for victory and how to make sure the team ends up on the win column. That's something he does at a higher level than anyone in the NFL does right now.
So the guys going back into the locker room there with the red on red. It's the first red on red game of 2020. Love to see it. All right, Shawn, so let's take a quick look around the NFL before wrapping up our show here tonight. We'll start with Browns at Titans. What a wild game this was. The Browns just explode in the first half. I mean, they can't be stopped. They score a ton of touchdowns. The Titans in the second half mount a bit of a comeback, but it was just too much in the end. They lose this game. The Browns are sitting at 9 now. They're for real.
Man, the wild Week 13 is here, and Baker Mayfield is leading the charge. He came in riding on his horses, throwing the ball all around, 4 touchdowns in the But what he did smart, what the coach is doing there in Cleveland is they're riding Chubb and Hunt. They're letting those two bell cows just keep on pounding at a defense and let that play action open up. There's not enough defenders to take away both those running backs and a vertical passing game. So take my hats off to the Cleveland Browns. They really less was more. Taking away OBJ and letting the other guys eat was the way the Browns need to win ball games.
Now looking at Raiders at Jets. The Jets were so close, Sean. They were so close. They had the lead in the final 10 seconds of the game. But, man, I mean, Derek Carr finds Henry Ruggs on a go route to end the game and score the touchdown to win that game for the Raiders. That was a crazy one.
Man, Joe Douglas is one of my personal friends. He's a general manager at the Jets. I'm hoping they're getting ready for that #1 pick because hopefully they're in the seat to get it. But I don't understand a defensive mind like myself. The last play of the game, you would never catch me in cover 0. Never. Not in 20, 30, not in 3 lifetimes of football have I seen someone go to cover 0 when they're already up. It's not a field goal game. They need a touchdown to beat you, and you go cover 0.
Now let's look at Bengals at Dolphins quickly. We play the Dolphins next week, so I thought we'd touch on this one. Tua Tagovailoa comes back. Looked pretty good overall. See him next week.
Yeah, he struggled a little bit. We talk about a rumble in the jungle. This was a rumble outside the jungle. There were so many players being ejected for fights, receivers, DBs. Both teams got together in the middle of the field, didn't like the way coaches was talking to each other. Man, this team, they strapped on the boxing gloves and got rid of the footballs, and they started to go toe-to-toe. So you saw that the Miami Dolphins came away with the win, but I think when it came to the points, the boxing match, the Bengals might have won.
Certainly a fun weekend of football, no doubt about that. And it continues with 2 Monday games and a Tuesday game this week. I love when there's a game like every day. It's the best. But we're on that Steelers game on Monday afternoon football, 4 o'clock Central. And this is an interesting one because, of course, we're chasing the Steelers for that top seed in the AFC. And they're playing the Alex Smith-led Washington football team that's playing some really good football lately, playing some great defense. What do you make of this game?
Man, you know, I like Alex Smith. He's a guy close to our heart here in the kingdom. But that's my Washington football team. That's my old squad. The defense has got young and aggressive. They come after the quarterback like no other. Big Ben, he's showing his age. He holds on to that ball way too long, trying to wait for Johnson and Juju to open up. The Claypool kid from Notre Dame, he holds that ball way too long for a young team that comes after you. So I think the Washington Redskins will be a little bit better matchup than the Ravens last week that almost got him with a third-string quarterback.
So yeah, Chase Young pinning his ears back, going after Ben Roethlisberger. Should be a fun matchup on Monday afternoon football. Looking forward to that. All right, Sean, that's about it for thoughts on Chiefs and Broncos tonight.
Hey, man, excited to be back in this seat. I was missing it. I was itching. Man, I can't wait to get back here. Red on red. We're going to let it show. We're going to let it shine. Man, I know one thing. Winning teams, the only thing they're worried about is winning. Losing teams are worried about winners. So while the Broncos are worried about us, the Chiefs ain't worried about nothing but what we do. We're going to go do what we do, as Pat Mahomes says, and come away with a victory.
Focus on week. It's coach speak, but it's real. Get the victory tonight. The Chiefs are officially back in the playoffs. For Shawn Barber, I'm Matt McMullen. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. We'll see you after the game.